Welcome to the Gladiator Guide, a show where I take a combat sports fighter and I give them an overall rating based on 5 career indicators, with the 5 being strength of resume, professional record, style effectiveness, damage taken, and career milestones. These 5 career indicators will help me judge the fighters overall as a collective. I will give each category a rating out of 20 overall, and once I've completed each one, the totals will be added together, ultimately to reveal said fighter's overall out of 100. To achieve this, I'll be walking you through the fighter's career, grading it as we go. After all of that's been completed, I'll add the fighter to the Gladiator game. Now that you're all caught up, if you enjoy the content, it'd mean a lot if you subscribed and dropped a like. I'm passionate about this channel, so the quality of my content will only go up from here. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to the Gladiator Guide. Sean Strickland began his career in mixed martial arts in 2008, shortly after his 18th birthday. And across the next 5 years, Deshaun would build up a perfect record of 13-0 before earning his shot in the UFC. That shot would come on the undercard of UFC 171, Hendricks vs. Lawler, against Bubba the Menace McDaniel, where Jonathan would win via first round rear naked choke. His next fight against Luke Barnett would result in a split decision win for Tarzan, making his record now 15-0 and 2-0 in the UFC. I should also mention that at the time, Shonnington was cutting to the welterweight division. His toughest test of his career would come in his junior effort in the UFC against veteran Santiago Ponzinibbio, where Sean would have his O taken via unanimous decision. Frustrated by the loss, Sean would go on to win the next 3 with a notable win over Tom Breeze. Now 18-1, Deshaun would face the completely unknown at the time Kamaru Usman, the future Hall of Famer and champion of the division. The Nightmare smothered Strickland with pace and pressure, even dropping the striker at one point in the fight, winning a unanimous decision and putting Sean's record to 18-2. Over his next 3, he'd go 2-1, beating Court McGee and Nardine Taleb, but losing to Easy Dos Santos by wheel kick TKO. This is where our protagonist's story takes a semi-unfortunate turn, as Sean would suffer a motorcycle accident that put him out of action until the end of 2020. Following the layoff, Deshaun would move up to the 185-pound division and string together a 6-fight win streak, with names like Brendan Allen, Christoph Jocko, Uriah Hall, and Jack Hermanson on the list. All of this would earn Sean a spot in the top 5 at middleweight and a big fight against Alex Pereira on the main card of UFC 276. Right under the champion, Israel Adesanya. Unfortunately, Sean would come up short, losing by first round KO to Poatan. Sean would look to rebound in a main event against Jared Cannonier, where he'd controversially lose a split decision that personally I felt like he won. This fight would close off the UFC's 2022, but Sean wasn't looking to basically start the new year with a loss. Strickland would go on to main event the next card, stepping in for Kelvin Gastelum on short notice against Nasruddin Imavov, a rising Dagestani prospect. Despite being the underdog and having a majority of analysts picking Sean to lose, he would go on to dominate, winning a unanimous decision, improving his record to 26-5 overall. Now let's plug in everything we've looked at. For Sean's record, of course, as I said, 26-5. That's a really, really solid record in my opinion, especially considering he has, I think, like 13 wins in the UFC, and that's just his wins. So like, look at all the fights he's had in the UFC. That's a lot of UFC caliber athletes on his record. You know, I love to see that. I love to see when a fighter doesn't have a padded record. So for record, for now, I would say let's give Sean a 16 out of 20. It's a good score. It's not anywhere near perfect, but his record's not anywhere near perfect. It could be better, and I'm sure it will be better in the near future. Now into his strength of resume. As I've said prior, he beat Tom Breeze, Court McGee, Nardine Taleb, Brendan Allen, Christoph Jocko, Uriah Hall, Jack Hermanson, and most recently Nasruddin Imavov. So, you know, not the strongest strength of resume. It's a decent little list of names. He hasn't beaten that like top caliber of athlete yet. That would make me give his resume score anything higher than what I'm about to give it. So I'm gonna give Sean Strickland a let's go 12 out of 20. Let's go 12. Let's give Sean a 12 on his resume so far. It's not bad. It could be a lot better. Now, his longevity. He was dropped by Usman. He was TKO'd by Easy Dos Santos. And he was KO'd by Alex Poatan. Other than that, hasn't taken too much damage. He's been dropped. I believe he was dropped by Santiago Ponzinibbio by like a straight, but I could be misremembering completely. Aside from these losses though, overall, Sean does not take much damage. He actually has one of the highest striking defense percentages in the whole sport, especially in that division. I think he is probably at the top in that division. I'm going to give him a 17 for his longevity. It's a solid rating. He's taken a decent bit of damage to a point that I feel like his chin is not going to be the same as somebody that is like a 20 or a 19. But 17 is still solid. Overall, it doesn't take much damage. For accolades, As I said prior, 13 UFC wins, ranked number 3 middleweight. That's the highest ranking he's gotten to. And he's main evented 4 times. Decent accolades for a veteran fighter that's still making a name for himself. Not the greatest though, so I'm going to give Sean let's give him a 12 for accolades. He could do a lot better. He can add a lot more to this. And then for style effectiveness, Sean's style is really effective. And interestingly enough, against grapplers and really like takedown heavy styles, Sean does his best work. He's able to just keep you in his game, his pace, jabbing you all over the place. Some leg kicks here and there. That's what I would say he needs to add more of, honestly. Leg kicks. He could really fuck some people up. We just saw what Merab did, and Merab is not a fucking striker by any means. And he fucked Petr Yan's leg up in like 2 rounds. Sean could easily do that. He's a big boy. He has some heavier kicks. For style effectiveness, I'm gonna give him a 15. We've seen that there are styles that just completely counter him, but as he's come into his own more and more throughout his career, it's become increasingly difficult for fighters to beat Sean. He pulls them into playing his game, and you can't beat him at his game for the most part. Only a couple strikers can, like Poton, probably Izzy, you know, those longer, rangier fighters. I think if you rematch Usman, that would be a really tough night for Usman, to be honest. Genuinely, just because of how his style's evolved. But yeah, for style, I'm gonna give him a 15 out of 20. When we tally it all up, it puts Sean's total at an overall of 72. Pretty solid in my opinion, especially for somebody that has not won a belt, hasn't even won an interim belt, hasn't been ranked number 1, nothing like that. He's doing pretty good for himself. Now for my favorite part of these videos, we can plug him in to the Gladiator game. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Took a lot of time, a lot of work, but these are my favorite videos to make, so I don't mind the work at all. I'll catch y'all.